What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another react video. So what's next for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Let's check this out.
The Pittsburgh Steelers finished the 2024 season with a 10-7 record and made the playoffs for the fourth time in 5 years.
We ain't gonna be seeing Pickens no more.
For the fourth time in 5 years, they lost
I love to see
the
this
round of the playoffs. Like a lot of the Pittsburgh Steelers seasons have been over the past few years, it was an up and down year. They had some incredibly high highs, as they had a 2-game span in November where they beat the Commanders in Washington, then came home the following week and beat the arch-rival Baltimore Ravens. And they were even 10-3 at a point after they beat the Browns in Week 14. But that was the end of the up part of the roller coaster, as it was nothing but downhill from there.
And they were outscored 109 to 57 in the final
3 straight double-digit losses, all of which were to playoff teams, including a 17.
I ain't gonna lie, this might be a hot take, but I don't think like the Steelers as a whole is a problem. I think it's just Mike Tomlin. If I'm being 100% honest, it's like every single season where they go over 500, I feel like that's all they play for is to go over 500. I feel like they're never really playing for a Super Bowl run. You know what I'm saying? Because every time they go over 500, the last few games they just suck ass and they end up getting first round. I feel like that's a huge issue. And Mike Tomlin might be the reason for it.
Ravens a second
Not gonna lie.
This time in the playoffs with a score of 28-14. And the Steelers entered the 2025 offseason in a tough situation, as they clearly had no long-term solution at quarterback, and as Steelers fans also unfortunately know, they haven't found a replacement for Big Ben yet. 2016. And they most recently traded away star receiver George Pickens, and the biggest question at this point is, what's next for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Well, we're going to break everything down in today's video. Now let's begin.
And they got a new intro and shit.
We are starting today's video by discussing the Steelers' current quarterback room. As of the release of
Aaron Rodgers might be a Steeler these next couple months. Who knows?
Rookie 6th-round pick Will Howard and journeyman Skylar Thompson.
And for the people saying that Will Howard's gonna be y'all's solution, not yet. I feel like he can be a good franchise guy, but he's nowhere near NFL ready yet. Like, I understand he just won a natty. You see how many superstars Ohio State had? He's not NFL ready yet, bro. I'm telling y'all right now. He's a good quarterback and all. He's not NFL ready.
This is one of the worst quarterback rooms in the NFL currently, and I would imagine 99% of Steelers fans agree with that. Mason Rudolph was the Steelers' 3rd-round pick back in 2018 and played a bit down the stretch of the 2024 season for the Titans as he eventually took over for Will Levis. He didn't play awful during his time with the Titans last year, but he certainly wasn't great either. And we're now approaching the middle of May, and there's still a lot of uncertainty around the Steelers' quarterback position. And I am under the belief that anytime you have uncertainty at the quarterback position, you are kind of directionless as a franchise, and I don't think the Steelers are an exception. And that's unfortunate because the roster itself is not bad. It's not great, but there is a lot higher of a floor there than a lot of teams have. And I know the Steelers have been kind of...
Oh yeah, speaking of TJ Watt, I don't know what's gonna go on with him. I don't think they're gonna trade him. You know, I think they extend him. Like, he's easily our best player. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they trade him, but if they do trade him, who would he go to?
For years,
and like, what would his worth be? Because he's entering his 31 age season. I don't think he's gonna be worth the 1st-round pick, even though he's one hell of a fucking pass rusher.
Is how high is this team's ceiling at this specific point in time? And the answer is pretty low. And I think the answer would be at most a wild card round playoff team. And even that is probably a tad high at the moment. Now, full transparency, I don't think they're going to go into the season with Mason Rudolph as their starting quarterback. I know every franchise makes mind-boggling decisions at times, as even the most well-run franchise isn't perfect, but I refuse to believe the Steelers would be this ignorant heading into the season and basically say it's Mason Rudolph or a rookie 6th-round pick in Will Howard and roll from there. I think there's a difference between the Vikings rolling into 2024 with Sam Darnold and hoping he works out, or even the Bucs in 2023 with Baker Mayfield, than what the Steelers have at the moment. Not only that, but the Vikings also had a 1st-round quarterback on their roster in J.J. McCarthy in case Sam Darnold didn't work out. So they had a legitimate backup plan in case of emergency, break glass. Now, J.J. unfortunately missed his entire rookie season, but there was a backup plan there. This also should not be a hot take to say, but even heading into 2024 and 2023 with the Bucs and Baker Mayfield is Sam Darnold and Baker each showed flashes during their career. Baker, of course, had the rookie season with Cleveland back in 2018 and had a really efficient season in 2020 as he threw 26 touchdowns to just 8 interceptions. These situations, to me, were nothing like what Pittsburgh currently has entering the 2025 season. Mason Rudolph lifetime has 28 touchdowns to 20 interceptions and has more or less been a career backup for a reason. I don't dislike Mason Rudolph as a backup quarterback, and in fact, when we talk about guys on the channel that can play 10 or 11 years and spot start here and there and walk away from the game making 35 or 40 million or maybe 60 or 70 million with where NFL contracts are headed, Mason Rudolph is a spitting image of that. But here we are in the middle of May with Pittsburgh really only having 2 options at this point in time to upgrade from Mason Rudolph. One, of course, is Aaron Rodgers and all of the drama and the attention that comes with signing Aaron Rodgers, and the other, to me at least, is trading for current Falcons backup quarterback Kirk Cousins. Now, one big thing that I don't think gets talked about enough pertaining to the idea of the Pittsburgh Steelers signing Aaron Rodgers, whether it be this coming week or whether it be in a month, is the idea that Aaron Rodgers is not who he was in his prime. And I think there was this little
and I think that Achilles tear really fucked him up even more. When he went
down in week 1 of 2023, that yes, the 2023 season was over, but guess what? We don't have to worry about anything entering 2024 because Aaron Rodgers is going to naturally fix everything. We have some defensive problems. Don't worry, Aaron will take care of it, even though he obviously does not play defense. And that's kind of where I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are at this point in time. But whether Aaron Rodgers is who he is as a player at 41 years old or who he was 5 years ago, which was a back-to-back MVP as he won in 2020 and 2021, I think even that player would not do well in this offense, at least not to the player that we are used to Aaron Rodgers being. The Steelers' offensive weapons at this point outside of DK Metcalf are not great, and I do not trust a 33-year-old Robert Woods.
That's why I don't understand why they traded away Pickens, bro. Like, they really are not trying to win a Super Bowl, are they, bro? Like, come on, gang. You trade your second best receiver, who's been your wide receiver one these last, 3 years? And you trade him away for a 3rd and 5th round pick? I don't understand it, bro. I don't understand it. And I heard it was Mike Tomlin's idea to trade him.
Unit after DK Metcalf, as he has 60 receptions in the last 2 years. Total, by the way, not each season. Calvin Austin career has 53 receptions, as he had 17 receptions in 2023 and 36 receptions last year, so I wouldn't expect this big leap for him to go from a wide receiver, really 3 at best, to this 85-catch player, because Aaron Rodgers is going to help him accelerate his progression as a receiver, and that he's going to become this 1,000-yard player and this Robin to DK Metcalf's Batman. One player that I think there should be some excitement around is 3rd-round pick from last year, Roman Wilson, and Roman was a guy that I liked a lot coming out of Michigan, but at this point, he is still a wild card. He has not played in an NFL game.
He was hurt last year,
and
too.
when you are entering your second season, not playing an NFL game with no quarterback on the roster that was there for your rookie season, I think that is going to downplay his potential, at least pertaining to the 2025 season, because Mason Rudolph was obviously with the Titans last year, Will Howard was obviously with Ohio State, and Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins were with either the Jets or the Falcons. So needless to say, there are a lot of concerns for the Steelers receiving corps, really outside of DK Metcalf. Now, to go back to a point earlier where I would still have a little bit of concern with this specific supporting cast, even if the Steelers had a prime
Robert Woods lost
a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers, is even if they bring him or Kirk Cousins in. And I'll be honest, I don't think there is that much difference between the two, as Kirk Cousins last year before the injury that he sustained was not a bad player. I don't think he was an MVP candidate by any means, nor do I think Aaron Rodgers was an MVP candidate for the Jets last year by any means, but hypothetically, say each player plays at the best of their ability in 2025. What is that actually going to look like with this specific team? They're going to win 9 games, 10 games, 11 games? Do we trust the Steelers? And this goes back to a question that I've been asking the Pittsburgh Steelers for years, really since the end of the Ben Roethlisberger era, and even in the final 2 years of the Big Ben era, is do we trust them enough to go into any of the big 3, Baltimore, Buffalo, or Kansas City, and you can even throw in Cincinnati for that matter too, in the postseason when it matters, and to win not just one playoff game, but multiple playoff games? And to me, the answer is no, not with a 37-year-old Kirk Cousins or a 41 by the time the playoffs roll around, 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers. So even if they bring either of those guys in, I have to be completely honest, I don't think the result is going to change what is inevitable for the 2025 Steelers. Now, regarding the George Pickens trade, I don't think it's as simple as the Steelers traded him for a third-round pick and a pick swap, because there are several layers to this. George Pickens, to me, is a really talented football player, and a guy that if he could keep his head on straight and be the same guy every day, week in and week out, he could be a guy that's a consistent.
And that's another thing too, bro. Like, I understand like him crashing out on the field, but from what I've heard, he doesn't give no problems in the locker room. In the locker room, he's, you know what I'm saying, one of the best teammates. That's what I've heard. But on the field, bro, he just always crashing out. So I don't know if he said anything out the way to Mike Tomlin or anybody else. You know what I'm saying? Because like the stats speak for themselves, bro. He's been solid his career. So I still don't understand why they traded him away.
5, 6, 7, 8 1,000-yard seasons as long as he can stay healthy.
And he played with Kenny Pickett as his quarterback. Like, bro.
The player that goes off the screen to fight other DBs, or the guy who grabs DBs by the face mask after the play is over. And that's a part and a tax, if you will, within this trade. And that's also why Dallas got him for a third-round pick and a pick swap. Because the player that George Pickens is, to me, is a guy that should have went for at least a second-round pick without a pick swap, because he is that good of a football player. There's also a part within the George Pickens trade that we may never find out if this happened or not, but what if Mike Tomlin went up to Omar Khan and basically said, for all of the guys that we've had over the years, the ABs, the Martavis Bryants, and everybody else that's came through as a Pittsburgh Steelers receiver over the past decade and a half, what if Mike Tomlin said to Omar Khan, look, George is a great football player, but now we have DK Metcalf. We can take what we can get for George Pickens because I do not want him in the locker room. That may have happened. They may not have happened, but I did want to point out that that is a possibility because of who George Pickens can be on the football field. There's also a reason that Pittsburgh was...
Yeah, like, look at this. Like, look at this, bro. Hold on, I'm moving my webcam out the way. Look at these stats, bro. His rookie year, 801 yards, 4 tuds. 1,100 yards in 2023 and 5 tuds. He could have had 1,000 yards last year if Russ won't shit in the fucking bed. Like, bro, like he's a good receiver, bro.
Probably weren't saying to Jerry Jones, "Hey, buddy."
So I'm really rooting for him on Dallas.
In the worst way,
hope he have a great
second round pick.
If not,
the deal is completely off the table.
I don't know.
And while the idea of George Pickens and DK Metcalf being on the field at the same time was a fun thought to think about over the past couple of months, there was always a part of me that was going to worry about how the other would feel when one is not getting the football for an extended period of time and how the egos would work within that locker room. But the reality is the Steelers are back to square one where they need offensive help, and whether the quarterback is Mason Rudolph, Kirk Cousins, or Aaron Rodgers in 2025, to me, I really don't think it matters with where their season is going to end. And right now, I think that's at maximum a wild card round exit. Now, with the acknowledgement of the Steelers' offense and lack of weaponry, I don't necessarily question the Steelers' defense, I question where they're headed. Overall, this unit was really good last year as they finished 8th in points allowed per game and finished just 12th in total yards allowed. And as you guys know, we often discuss complementary football on the channel, and it's because if you have a good offense that can really run the ball and can really sustain drives, that helps the defense out immensely. I don't know if there's a quantifiable metric for this, but having an 11-play drive on offense that takes up 6.5 minutes while allowing your defense to rest only helps them out later in the game and ultimately later in the season. And we bring this up because the Steelers' defense did not have that much help in 2024 from a complementary standpoint. The Steelers finished 25th in yards per carry offensively and were 20th in time of possession per drive too. The defense, on the other hand, was 10th in average time of possession per drive and 5th in yards per carry against. Meaning, the defense was far from the problem last year, and that's historically been the case for the Steelers. Also, a big-time credit where it's due, Pittsburgh was also first in turnovers forced defensively as they forced 33 turnovers in 2024. But despite all of the rightful concerns we have with the Steelers' offense, I also have a lot of concern with the Steelers' defense too. Not in 2025 necessarily, because I still think this will be a really good unit, but Cam Hayward
I feel like the only weakness is the secondary.
And I do credit Pittsburgh for having an exit plan for when he inevitably retires. They drafted Keanu Benton a couple of years ago, who I absolutely love, by the way, and they drafted Derek Hardman from Oregon in the first round this year. Expecting someone to be the next Cam Hayward would be ridiculous, but
Cam Hayward had 8 sacks last year? Damn.
Departure. But really, in the blink of an eye, TJ Watt is a 7-time Pro Bowler and will turn 31 in October. And it seems like yesterday, this was a player who was underappreciated nationally and a player who was definitely deserving of a second contract. But you blink and TJ Watt is now in a contract year. He's on the wrong side of 30 and he's played in over 120 career games. And for the first time, I think it's fair to start to wonder about TJ Watt's future in Pittsburgh and what exactly that may entail.
Hey, as a Ravens fan, I would love for this nigga to get traded. But I don't think he's going anywhere. Like, we've seen this story before where, you know, a star player, you know what I'm saying, wants out, you know what I'm saying, of you know, a team and stuff like that. They want a big contract. But we've always seen them, you know, get that contract. Like Myles Garrett. You know what I'm saying? Myles Garrett, Max Crosby. And I think TJ Watt's going to follow right behind them, too, bro. And getting a big contract. Because he deserves to be the highest paid edge rusher in the NFL, in my opinion.
Turnaround. I do not think this team is legitimately 1 year away from being a consistent wild card round exit to a team that's not.
Like I said before, bro.
And this is
I think they're a quarterback, maybe another receiver away from being Super Bowl contenders,
and what's
bro.
Frustrating for the Steelers and their fan base is
as long as they got that defense and they get a solid quarterback, another weapon, they can make some noise, bro. But
I don't think it's a bad
outside
idea
of that,
well
they ain't doing shit
for him, and to induct him into the Steelers Hall of Honor immediately after he retires. And to be completely honest, I think the same belief applies to Minkah Fitzpatrick. I am more of an advocate for the Steelers to move on from TJ Watt than I am Minkah Fitzpatrick.
Alabama legend.
Is absolutely worth doing too. Minkah is a 5-time Pro Bowler, and the trade with the Dolphins back in 2019 was a great trade for the Steelers, and honestly one that does not get talked about enough. But Minkah's final year of his deal is in 2026, and he too will be wanting a contract extension. And for as good as TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick have been for the Steelers, one is already 30 and one is approaching 30, with both needing new contracts. And if you're going to go for a rebuild, you might as well go all in. Because the tough reality for the Steelers is the Baltimore Ravens and Cincinnati Bengals are not going anywhere. Now, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's usually not discussed how we got to where we are today. It's usually that they drafted Kenny Pickett back in 2022, and that was the answer to the end of the Ben Roethlisberger era, and when it didn't work out, well, everything else went downhill. But it's a lot more complicated than that. Obviously, they traded for Justin Fields, hoping that that could be a late-round dart throw, and they also signed Russell Wilson to the vet minimum after he was released by the Broncos. But their 2021 and 2022 drafts' lack of success largely led to where they are today. In 2021, they had 3 top 100 picks, and they were used on Najee Harris, Pat Freiermuth, and interior offensive lineman Kendrick Green. And Najee Harris is a really interesting pick to discuss. Interior offensive lineman Kendrick Green. And
none of these niggas are here now except for Pat Freiermuth, bro. Najee, obviously the Chargers now. Kendrick Green. I don't think he not there no more. Dan Moore is a Titan. Whatever happened to Presley Harvin? Was he that bad? Like, I know that nigga was big as shit.
Because you can make a legitimate argument that that was a draft hit. During his time with the Steelers, he had 4 1,000-yard seasons. He even made a Pro Bowl as he had 1,600 total yards back in 2021 and played all 68 games. Having perfect attendance in 4 straight seasons is incredibly rare, and Najee, being the durable player he was, along with rushing for, again, 1,000 yards in each season,
he's not explosive, though. That's
would be a draft hit. But we all obviously watch Najee Harris on a week-to-week basis, and we all know that Najee is not close to being a top 5 running back in the NFL, and given that the Steelers spent a first-round pick on Najee Harris, you can also make the argument that that was not a hit of a pick, and especially when he's with the Los Angeles Chargers.
Get on him for that, because he was demon at Bama, especially the
because again,
2020
this is another
season he came
selection
off
that
of.
you can argue is a draft hit. But again, like with Pat Freiermuth with Najee, we all know he's not a top 4, 5, or 6 tight end in the league. And the reason that I would argue that Pat Freiermuth is a hit of a draft pick is because he has 3 60-plus reception seasons and also has 2 seasons with 7 or more touchdowns. There was legitimate belief after his rookie season that the Steelers basically had the next Heath Miller and that Muth was going to be here for the next 8 to 10 years, that he was probably going to have 50 or 60 touchdowns when it's all said and done, along with 400 or 500 receptions. And to be completely honest, that is still on the table. Kendrick Green was a draft miss, as he was not very good during his rookie season, and he was a healthy scratch in every game in 2022 and was traded before the 2023 season started. So to have 3 selections in the top 100 back in 2021, where you legitimately do not know if they are hit or misses, is not a good position to be in, especially given that the first 2 selections were used on a running back and tight end, both of which positions are not premium value, and both of which are not elite at their respective position. Offensive tackle Dan Moore was also selected back in 2021, and I've never been a big Dan Moore fan, and he actually led the league in 2024 in sacks allowed amongst every offensive lineman, yet the Titans gave him a $41 million contract this offseason, and that's one I will never understand. So to not receive great production from one draft class is already not good, and again, the fact that they spent premium draft capital on both Najee Harris and Pat Freiermuth is a big reason as to where they are today, but it kind of gets worse because 2022 was not a great draft class either, and I'm not going to spend too much time on Kenny Pickett other than acknowledging that that selection did not work out. George Pickens is interesting because, like we said, we all know he is a really good player when healthy and when he's on the field, and obviously the Steelers recently traded him, so the production he provides for Dallas now means absolutely nothing to Pittsburgh because he's not on their roster. DeMarvin Leal was their 3rd-round pick, and he was their final selection within the top 100 in 2022, and he also has not worked out to the level they hoped when they selected him back in 2022. Calvin Austin is the other player from this class that has potential, but even at this point, he has 53 receptions in 3 years, or 2 years because he didn't play during his rookie season, and at this point, that's a dart throw. I would not go into the 2025 season expecting Calvin Austin to take a big leap and expecting him to be a legit wide receiver too. If he does, great, but again, that doesn't really make up for an entire 2 years worth of drafts, which the Steelers could desperately use to help improve their roster right now. So when you look at where the Pittsburgh Steelers are, which to me is just above water as they're not sinking and they're not a 3 or 4 win team year in and year out, and there's a reason that they win 9 or 10 games every year, and it's because they are a solid football team, but not an elite football team. And to me, the reality is they're not a year away. They're not a good offseason away from going from 10 wins to 14 wins and going to the Super Bowl or going to the AFC Championship game 2 out of 3 years. And that's why I am suggesting that this team trades away TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick to get the draft capital while they can and to hopefully secure their franchise quarterback in the future. The 2026 draft class is absolutely loaded, and whether it's Cade Klubnik, Lenora Sellers, or take your choosing, they have an opportunity to draft their quarterback in the future, and conveniently
if he declares
is in Pittsburgh next year. The quarterback would also have a really good offensive line in front of them, as I really like what the Steelers have done with their offensive line over the past few years. But I am proposing the Steelers trade away some of the veterans they have on their roster and to build for a better tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like the video as it helps tremendously with the YouTube algorithm, as well as comment below what you think the Steelers should do. Until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.
Hey, shit, I want to know what you guys think. You know what I'm saying? They still should do. Should they trade Watt and Minkah? I don't know, bro. Like, that's actually crazy. You're trading away 2 cornerstones of your defense. Well, not just your defense, your team in general. Oh, man, I don't know. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments below. Y'all let me know what other NFL videos I'm going to react to. Without further ado, I'm out. Yeah.